My name is Charlie Knox. I am a planner, former city public works director, community development director, and a consultant now with a company called Placeworks. We're the firm that's leading a team that's helping the city staff, you, the community, planning commission, city council, and our general plan subcommittee help get your ideas for what San Mateo should be like over the next 20 years. So as you sit down at the table that's identified on the number on your name tag, please take the time to give us your ideas off the top of your heads about what you like, dislike, and wish we had. And like every other piece of information over the next year plus in this general plan update process, this information will be recorded. There will be photographs of those sheets available on the website so you can go back and take a look. We also have an online exercise where you can be more specific about your ideas, and no input is too much. You can do our exercise here today, come up with new ideas based on that, come back to us with the survey online at strivesanmateo.org, which I'll show you in a minute. And you can come to more workshops. You can layer that with emails. Your voice is extremely important in terms of what happens here between now and 2040 and beyond. So I'm going to get into a little bit of the purpose of today's exercise after we do a few introductions. The opening activity, which is grayed out already since you've done it, is this like, dislike, what you wish we had in San Mateo. So I've got a few folks from Placeworks with me today. Will you please raise your hands? We've got a number of city staff. Can you please raise your hands? And what you'll see is we've got staff or consultant team folks as a facilitator for every single one of these tables, plus more of us to come around and try to help you turn your ideas into statements that will help guide this process over the next year, year and a half. We also have some of our general plan subcommittee members, please raise your hands, who are also commissioners on some of our city commissions, as well as city council members, and one of our subcommittee members is also the mayor. So they are here today to observe. So as much as you might try to entice them into your conversation, really their role today is to see what you're saying. They are a filter and a guiding committee in this process to help inform the Planning Commission and City Council as those two groups start to make decisions about policies in the future. A really big point I want to make today is we're not at policy yet. So you may have an idea like, I think in my neighborhood there should be a dog park and the dog park should have barbecue pits, and I want a policy in the general plan that says that. Great. But what we want today is, how does that affect the city citywide? Do you think in general we don't have enough dog parks? Do you think in general we don't have enough outdoor recreation? What we're trying to do today in this exercise is come up with vision statements, and you may have seen the ones that are in the current general plan, but we don't want to make you use that as a starting point. This is really original ideas today. So what we're trying to get out of today is your idea. My vision is, my group's vision for the future is a San Mateo where these things happen. So you'll see on the tables as we get there, we've got a lot of ideas to prompt you. We've got a stylized map of the city that kind of shows where things are. We've got a briefing book that talks about our biggest issues. Traffic's bad, housing's expensive. And we've got some pictures you can look at and point to, and some places for the scribe at your table, who is one of our facilitators, to help you coalesce ideas. So this is a real community building exercise. It's an exercise in consensus, which is not always easy. You are more than encouraged to argue diplomatically with each other, try to convince the people at your table of your position. But ultimately what we're going to want to come out with today is a statement from each one of the tables to be presented by one of you, self-selected, at least your top two ideas and issues. We've given you some issue areas. We are not trying to channel you into certain statements or certain ideas. There's one called Other, just to remind you. If you have some other way to do it, that's great. If you want to combine ideas, that's great. What we're really looking for is, what's that vision? Because in each of us, we know things that we want to see in the future. And so today's exercise is, can we get some agreement with a group of our peers, because that's what it's going to take citywide to be successful, what that means and how to say that. So I'm going to give you a brief presentation. If you have a few questions before we go into small groups, we can cover that as well. And I don't think I missed any introductions. Thank you for being here. So in the presentation, I'm just going to cover these topics, tell you a little bit about the update project, and talk about the vision statement before we go into the exercise. So Most of you already know this. I'm going to go quickly. You can always ask more questions, including at the tables. Every city in California has a general plan. Every general plan is required to be updated on a fairly regular basis. It usually happens when things change somewhat drastically, like the situation we're living in now on the peninsula, especially in San Mateo, and especially with 101 and 92 coming together in our community. Traffic is really something incredible. Much more fun to describe than to be in. And so, in addition to those big issues, there are also lots of fine-tuning things that we see we want to accomplish in San Mateo, downtown, at the transit centers, in neighborhoods. I think in general, one thing I've already heard from most folks is, you know, yes, let's be neighborhood specific, and some neighborhoods have some issues, but really, as a larger community, how do our neighborhoods relate to each other? How do they relate to the commercial areas, the places that we are going on a daily basis for goods and services? So the vision statement can be 10 statements, it can be 50 statements, it can be one statement. There's no controlling factor here other than your ideas and how you want to try to express your vision for the future. Once we start developing the vision statement for the general plan update for San Mateo in 2040, we will then be using that throughout this process to make sure that when we get to policies and when we get to decisions that the council might be making, that they comport with that. So it's really important. This is a really important first step to kind of guide the whole process. Sometimes this part of the process is also called guiding principles, if you want to look at it that way. And, you know, the objectives of this plan are to engage as broad a spectrum of the San Mateo community as possible, and I think today's turnout and looking around and seeing who's here is a real testament to that success. So I really want to credit city staff with getting the word out, and we will keep reminding you about our website and about activities you can attend both in person and digitally. A general plan in a city in California or a county in California is required to have these so-called elements, but like our exercise today, they're not rigid, they can be combined. Some cities have, Richmond has 15 elements in their general plan, County Marin has 3. So you can combine these into chapters. Anything that you think is a good idea for customizing connections between land use and transportation and open space and housing, economy, that's all fine. But this just tells you the state law requires you to cover these subjects. And our plan was last updated in 2010. It wasn't a complete update. And really the focus today and in the general plan update is land use and circulation. If that has effects that run into other chapters and other subjects, of course those will be made to be compliant. A general plan in California has to be internally consistent by law. So if we come up with ideas that are new and groundbreaking and they require us to go into other sections to keep up with them, we will do that based on your guidance. This is a lot of words per slide, but basically it's just repeating that the update of this general plan, the objective of this general plan update is to kind of catch up with the drastic change that's happened around us, have a modern general plan that can deal with the issues we're facing and really look forward over the next 20 years and try to anticipate some of the great things that can happen here. And it's just a reminder there's a lot of other city planning, city public works, parks, and open space initiatives in process that will be both inform this general plan update and also hopefully positively be impacted by it. So we are a long-standing, strong community with deep roots. We are, even so, experiencing things we've never experienced before. We all want a strong economy, but a strong economy also brings along with it issues and challenges that we are facing now. And rather than repeat them, let's branch off of these when we talk at our small groups about what we can do and what we see our future potential to be. Here's a brief snapshot of where we are now and how this whole project works. We're looking to have everything in front of the City Council in the summer of 2020, which sounds like a long time from now, but it's definitely getting closer. And there are some steps in between, not the least of which is that every major, quote, project in California requires environmental documentation under the California Environmental Quality Act, also called CEQA. And so even though this is not a project like building a building, it will certainly lead to the possibility of things like that. And so that environmental impact report phase of the project is an important legal requirement, and it takes a fair amount of time, like 6 months. And even though it can be layered onto other things we're doing, a project like this necessarily takes this long. It's hard in the face of change to think, why can't we just turn around and tomorrow adopt our plan and get going? Well, 2020 is tomorrow in this kind of time frame. In between the draft general plan and the EIR that goes with it, we will go from vision into goals. I'll get into this in a second. And then we'll do land use alternatives. And we'll be in a situation like this, both virtually online and in community meetings, where instead of this map, we'll have a couple different maps. And on those maps, you'll be able to say, well, I like this idea from this map, and I like that idea from this map, and I want to put them together in a different way. That's what land use alternatives are. They lead to a map in the general plan and a circulation map in the general plan, which tend to be some of the things that people look at first, in addition to zoning. If you've all wanted to do something with your property, the first thing you do is look at the zoning, talk to the city, and the city may say, well, you know, you could do this or this, let's see what the general plan says. And the general plan map may say something about whether it's this kind of bike path or that kind of street improvement. And so the general plan is kind of in the background over the next 20 years, informing every decision the city makes, especially through the zoning code, and especially about what you do with land use activities. So we have a lot of public engagement scheduled for this project, for the general plan update. We just did a youth workshop about a week ago. Seems like either a lot less time or a lot more time, depending on time of day, but incredibly inspiring. The youth of our community have some great ideas, and you know, they're just different than everything that I think. And it's really interesting too, you expect the youth to have these groundbreaking ideas, and then they also have some kind of resistance to change, fairly conservative seeming ideas too. So the kids were great. They presented at the Rotary on the 25th of October. They split up into separate groups and kind of outlined what they thought was their vision. And a lot of it's what you might expect. They're really thinking about alternatives to current transportation modes. How's that going to look in the future? How's our city going to change because of the technology that's emerging that we see both here in the peninsula and also nationwide and worldwide? We have a bus tour coming up, which I would definitely encourage you to sign up for. Space will be limited. I think we're looking at January, so we're going to hope for good weather. And we get on a double-decker bus like this and drive around the community and look at things. So it's really fun just in and of itself. But what happens is you see things in a different way. There's just no real substitute for being not quite at eye level, but not at Google Maps level. You know, you look around and you see intersections and how they work, and bike lanes and how they work, and it spurs some really, really good ideas. We'll have open houses. We're coming out to the neighborhoods. There's the next neighborhood meeting is...
We're working with the neighborhood reps on organizing 4 additional meetings in different parts of San Mateo. So definitely, if you did not sign up, you know, with your email and contact information, please do before you leave, because once we have those dates out, we're going to start letting everybody know.
And Julia Klein is the project manager from the city on this, so she will directly receive or see almost anything that you email us for suggestions or for questions. Adam, who's at table 5, told me that his neighborhood is going to have a neighborhood meeting that tries to repeat what we're doing today, which I think is a great idea. So you can all be ambassadors. Our general plan subcommittee folks are the official ambassadors, but you can all be ambassadors to your neighborhoods and your friends and your colleagues. And having gone through this exercise today, you can run them through a mini exercise with our help, or ask them the same questions and try to bring them into this conversation. So there's not just one way to get at this information and input from the community. Online engagement runs through the whole additional year and a half beyond now. We will update each of the online exercises to mirror what we're doing here. So right now we're in the vision phase online also, and so you can go online and you can actually take statements and move them up and down. You can change them around. You can offer your perspective. You're welcome to identify things about yourself if you want to. It's not mandatory. We have word walls that people have been adding words to for the last month and a half or so. So I'll put up the website in a second so you can see how that looks. And then, of course, the General Plan Subcommittee has a series of meetings. They've already had 2. We have at least 6 more scheduled. And again, the General Plan Subcommittee, appointed by the council, has people from the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission, the Planning Commission, Parks and Recreation, and 2 council members, and they kind of filter all this information and say, hey, I think we heard this and we heard that. Can we get more information about something? Can we kind of talk about some of these ideas before it goes to the Planning Commission and City Council and becomes more of a formal city process? So here's the website. Here's a couple different screenshots. This is the home screen over here. Hopefully it's all intuitive, but you can go through and look at some of the things that describe how the process works and what the components are of the general plan. We're at visioning. And then the one on the right is the screenshot of when you go to the online participation. So if you go Strive San Mateo, cityofsanmateo.org. Go to online participation. You have 6 different ways to get information to us or from us. And the bottom left one here, rank the issues, is a little similar to what we're doing today. So if you are you left with any lingering thoughts after today and you want to get a little bit more detailed, you can go there. You can also just add information, upload a photo, and do your own word wall. I kind of alluded to this before, but in terms of being ambassadors to the community, we really want to reach everybody. There are obviously people who don't have time to participate, are not comfortable participating in a forum like this. Let's figure out through non-governmental organizations, partner agencies, houses of worship, community groups, how do we get those folks out? So if you know anybody you think would be interested, and you don't have a direct way to contact them, but you can tell us who you think we're missing or who we could get to, please just do that either today in person or by email or through the website. We have Spanish translation today. Does anybody, I don't know if I can say this in Spanish. None? Okay. If anybody does feel more comfortable in Spanish or in other language, if you are a native speaker of another language and you don't see that translation here today and you'd like us to have that in the future, please let us know. But we do not want any barriers in the way of anybody participating. And talked about the General Plan Subcommittee. I think it's really important to note these meetings are open to the public. They are a forum for your input as well as you being able to watch this deliberation and discussion of this General Plan Subcommittee. They're well announced in advance. The next one is December 17th. Do we know the location of that one yet? Beresford Park?
The Senior Center across from Beresford Park. So the location will be posted online as well.
And the important thing to know about the December 17th General Plan Subcommittee at the Senior Center across from Beresford Park is that's when the General Plan Subcommittee will be talking about what was learned through today's workshop and tomorrow's workshop and all of the online and other engagement, other input between now and then. So that'll be kind of a milestone of what have we heard from the community, what do we think about it before we have the Planning Commission and Council start looking at vision statements. December 17th. The meetings are all recorded, they all include public comment, and they're all open to the public. All right, so the vision statement. Yes, it describes what you want San Mateo to look like in 2040, and it also will start informing the goals and policies that come later in the process. It really is important that this is an exercise where peer-to-peer, community member to community member, we're trying to talk each other into or out of ideas and we come up with some consensus, because that really is what's representative of how the community as a whole works through the city council and through the city government. And I think I went through this all before, but basically don't feel constrained by any of the materials. If you have an idea that's different or somehow doesn't seem to fit exactly somewhere, don't be discouraged. Promote that idea and let's figure out how to make it work. And here's just an example of how a vision statement might get you to a future policy that guides the city government on what we're going to do. And this is meant to be very generic, but also kind of give you an idea of how things go. So a vision statement might be something like, my vision is in 2040, in San Mateo, anyone can just basically get wherever they want through different modes of transportation. Great. And the goal, one of the goals, there might be 3 or 4 goals that relate to this vision statement. And one of them is we really want more people to take transit. It reduces greenhouse gas emissions, it reduces congestion. Some of the barriers right now are maybe it's too expensive or it doesn't go where it needs to go. But all embedded in that is this one outcome. It's an end state. We want more people riding transit. And so one of the policies, there might be 20 or there might be 4 that go with it, is we need to figure out how to get more people using Caltrain. One way to do that, because we know people, the more times they have to change their mode of travel, we're going to lose some. What if everyone who got off Caltrain at Hillsdale could get on a shuttle that takes them exactly where they want to go? Well, how are we going to make that work? So this just gives you an idea of a vision statement, what a goal is, and what a policy is. So here's our process I just described. We're headed towards December 17th at the General Plan Subcommittee, then to the Planning Commission and Council in January. We've had the online engagement going for I guess about a month and a half. We had the Youth Vision Workshop, and we are here at November 3rd today. Doesn't feel like November, or maybe, I live in the East Bay, so actually this is when we have our summer, so it does feel like November. So here's just another description of this exercise. Work together to create the vision statement. There are 6 separate themes that we've identified that you'll see on these pieces of paper: circulation, jobs and economy, housing, parks and public spaces, and a couple others. There is another one called Other to remind you that anything is fair game, as long as you get your group to agree to it. And during this hour or so that we're at our tables, at some point we'll want to self-select among the group one person to present this at the end, so that every other group in the room can benefit from what your group discussed. And so we've saved some time at the end, 20 minutes or so, to report back to the full group. So it's going to be kind of loud and hustle and bustle for a lot of this time, but when it's done, we're going to come back into this format, and folks are going to come up here and say, here's what we learned. And there will be diverging opinions, so, excuse me, I'm already starting to compromise my voice. If someone feels very strongly, like if there's 6 people in my group and all 5 of them thought, we're going to do this, and one said, I really don't like that, we're going to note that, right? We don't want to lose people's opinions just because we're trying to create consensus. There are the themes we've prompted you with. Again, everything on the table is a prompt. It's not a direction. You're welcome to take it any way that's useful for your group. And are there any questions? Great. Okay. All right. So at your table, each person identify yourselves as the facilitator. The facilitator is going to do their best to write down your ideas. There are multiple pieces of paper, so we can rewrite and start over. But the first thing to do is try to pick the 2 themes that you want to present at the end. Thank you. So each presenter, please tell us if it fits in one of the categories, if you chose a different category or combined them, and then tell us why you think these were the most important, and then go ahead and read the statement. And up first from table 10 is Doug.
Right. Okay, we chose housing and circulation. Our vision for housing: a variety of housing options for people of all socioeconomic groups, including higher density development. Circulation. Our vision is a variety of transit options integrated within the region with less emphasis on cars.
Were there any other ideas that were competing that you guys thought weren't quite as important as those 2, or any other dissent or diverging opinions?
Well, we talked about the notion of public spaces and being able to have more opportunities for people to have experiences in public spaces. And we did talk about the idea of a linear park where people could actually walk along trails to be able to connect more effectively in the region.
Great. Thank you. From table 9, we have Petra.
Hi, so we didn't follow directions exactly because we're like that, but we have a theme, and our theme is flexibility. So we talked about housing. We know everyone's going to talk about housing, but some of the ideas we had were to make more flexibility within housing, so modular housing, more micro-housing, zoning, things that have more opportunities for affordable housing, and in addition, to have more public space so that people can live in smaller places but still feel like they have a wide open space to be in. And we, as far as development, we wanted to make sure that it's people-centered, so people-centered priorities while still preserving the character of San Mateo. There was a lot of talk about how the character of San Mateo is something different from the other cities because we have much more diversity for historical reasons, and we want to keep that as well as some of the historic buildings. And then when we were talking about transit, because I'm sure everybody talked about transit again, it was a lot about flexibility, lots of different kinds of transit, independently operated. We talked about making parking spaces flexible, because at some point we're going to need fewer parking spaces, but we'll need more bike parking, more scooter parking, and some of those parking lots we were hoping could become parks and walkable streets.
Thank you. Lisa, from table 8. And so we hopefully have 7, 6, and 5 lined up behind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Guess what? We did housing and circulation too. So our vision for housing is anyone who wants to live and work in San Mateo is able to, while maintaining the quality of life and character of our community. And there we go. Our circulation vision is we want to be able to get around town without having to drive a car safely, conveniently, and affordably, and have reasonable travel times for locals who need to drive. And since we have such a great group, we actually did a third one, which we're going to sneak in under the other category. And we want a vibrant, attractive, pedestrian-focused downtown with some street segments reclaimed for pedestrians.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Regina Isla. So our group did, surprise, surprise, housing and circulation. Okay, so our vision for housing is to address the housing crisis by promoting mixed-use development near transit, offering a variety of housing types that accommodate for the wages within our city, while maintaining the current quality of life with some subcategories for mixed-use, live, work, shop spaces, parking, and accessible dwelling units.
And that's all one sentence.
Yeah, woo! I'm good at run-ons. That's my superpower. Circulation to support a multimodal, safety was a huge concern at our table on a lot of levels. Transit system that accounts for all demographics, incomes, and abilities, improving overall access and efficiency. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Regina. Table 6.
Hi, Chris Hogan. So we also did circulation and housing. That's a tough act to follow there. Our vision for circulation is that in 2040 it will be easier than today to get around without a car, easy and enticing to get around without using a car. Because I really think that right now, we have bikes, we have walkability, but it's just not very nice to get out. Everybody would rather use a car because everything's built for cars. On housing, our vision is that we'll have a higher concentration of housing and services around transportation hubs, while also balancing that with increased transportation capacity, because we can't just basically build, in high-impact areas like downtown and expect transportation like Caltrain right now to suck up all that capacity if it's not possible to do so. It's not gonna work out.
Table 5, Amy.
Yeah, we have two.
We split the duties. My name's Amy. I'm from Table 5, and surprise, surprise, we do circulation as well. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what's important to everybody in our community that just keeps coming up. But anyway, our table had a vision of people of all ages and abilities are comfortable and safe moving around the city without using fossil fuels. So it was very much an emphasis that we wanted sustainable options for transportation, and also accessibility and availability of adequate transportation for people of all walks of life.
And guess what our second one was? Housing. Our vision is San Mateo has enough housing at all levels of affordability throughout the city, with higher density near transit to house our growing community.
Hi, I'm Robert Harker, and Table 4, we did housing and circulation as well. Our vision is protecting existing residents while encouraging higher density, affordable housing, and preserving our diversity as a community for that. And then for circulation, San Mateo has let me try it again. Our vision is that San Mateo has multimodal transportation that feels safe, regionally connected, sustainable, affordable, and technologically adaptive. And then I must admit, I also added traffic planning should discourage cut-through traffic on surface streets.
Thank you, Robert. John.
is for table 3, which was the best table. We also did housing and circulation. Primarily, we were focused on stronger density, particularly around transit areas, and to allow much higher buildings and eliminating or greatly reducing or increasing the height limit. Also incorporating an affordable housing unit, or an affordable housing component, and allow easier upzoning across all of San Mateo. And for circulation, we want to maintain our walkable, regions, easy to walk to retail, to the train station, et cetera, while allowing for, future kinds of innovations for, different transportation options. Make it easier for shuttle services to move across the community. And one other strong component was, for our group, was protected bike lanes all across the community. Thank you.
I'm Chelsea. We chose jobs and economy as our first one. Before I share it, I just want to thank our facilitators too, because they were really helpful. And maybe we had the best table because they were really great. Okay, so jobs and economy. I don't know if anyone else did this one. Our vision is our city nurtures existing and emerging small and medium-sized businesses across all sectors, including retail, food, tech, and manufacturing. And we did circulation. Our vision is moving across our city through active transportation is safe, easy, and preferred with enhanced east-west connections that tie into existing infrastructure.
So we almost ran the table on circulation and housing, because those were our topics. My name is Larry Ivich. Circulation was our first choice, and our vision is San Mateo promotes and incentivizes alternatives to the single occupancy vehicle and improves safety of other modes of transportation, meaning bike, walking, that type of thing. We had one other side note, which was incorporated in the slogan that we invented is ferries by 2040, don't miss the boat. Housing, we spent a little more time on this. Our vision is housing that is attainable for people of all income and abilities, prioritizing low, very low, and extremely low income with a stronger live-work preference. The second point we made, allow greater height and density along high-capacity transit routes so long as there is sufficient open space, transit, public service, and infrastructure to support that housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I was looking for the slide that says December 13th again, or December 17th, excuse me. I don't see it. So next steps. Well, first of all, congratulations and a round of applause for everybody in this room. So a couple things happened, right? One is we focused on some of the meatier, more difficult issues, which is really what we need to do, and we know that. The second, I don't know if you've noticed, but in almost every statement, there was this incredibly inspirational piece where everyone in this room is not just thinking about themselves. There were all kinds of statements about people who don't have what I have, who don't have the access that I do or the wherewithal. What about all segments of the community for transportation, for safety, for affordability? And I think that in and of itself is such an incredible accomplishment and shows what this process can do and what is really in all of our hearts. I think that is really important, and I don't want to lose that because I think every single one of these statements got at that. It doesn't matter what the subject was, we all got to, hey, this needs to be fair and equitable and socially just for everyone in our community, and I think that is a huge accomplishment. So we're going to repeat this same exercise this afternoon at Hillsdale High. You are welcome to come, but I'm assuming that you probably have something else you want to do on a day like this. So I very much appreciate your time. We all do. And what we will do with all this information is post it on the website, keep physical records of it. I'm actually probably going to take a picture of all these statements together, and then we'll have them all posted and scanned separately. But what I'd like you to do is let your facilitator know, or if you've already talked about this as a group, if there's anything lingering, like there was that one other thing we worked on, I want to make sure that that sheet of paper gets in the record. We're going to grab all of the materials from your table, so nothing will get lost. But if you feel like anything got missed, or there's still some question in your mind about what about that third subject or that fourth subject, and then is Petra or somebody still here from table 9? Can you make sure we have at least what is the closest to your actual written statements for the flexibility and people-centered priority principles? And so with that, all this information will go on the web. The information from this afternoon's meeting will join it. And before the General Plan Subcommittee gets its packet to consider for its December 17th meeting, all of that stuff will be available. So stay in touch. Look at Strive San Mateo. There's many ways to participate. If you have any questions on your way out, talk to me or any of the city staff or any of the consultant team staff, and let us know if there's anything we haven't caught today that you want to have captured. The back of your agenda also has a physical comment section, so anything you want to leave in writing today will also be recorded. And with that, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day.